Great. You see people from South Africa all over. Yay.
Really exciting. Okay, should we get started soon?
Yeah, I think we can. I
Okay,
think we
perfect.
can begin.
Amazing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 14th McGill International Cellphilm Festival. My name is Jenna, and I will be one of your co-hosts for this evening. For a little about me, I'm a final year McGill student pursuing a degree in psychology, sociology, and behavioral science, and I'm also an intern with the PCL for this summer. Before we begin, I want to mention that if you would like to follow along with tonight's programming, make sure to check the chat below, where a link to the festival schedule will be available. Now, on to my co-host for this evening, Ingara.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zingara, and I'm your second co-host for the evening, and I'm also an intern at the PCL this summer. I'm a final year student at McGill University pursuing a joint honors degree in political science, gender, sexuality, feminist, and social justice studies. So now before we begin with the festival, we'll just move on to our land acknowledgement. Before we begin, I just wanted to mention that this event is hosted by McGill University, an institution with an ongoing colonial legacy. McGill is situated on unceded territory of the Ganekahaga, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. Recognizing the land beneath our feet is just the beginning of our journey towards decolonization, reconciliation, and anti colonial practices, actions that equally involve acknowledging the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. We must continue to hold our institutions accountable and add our voices to calls to divest. Jijage, also known as Montreal, means where the boats and rivers meet. Hence, as we recognize the Ganekahaga as the traditional custodians of the lands we occupy, I wanted us to reflect on the lands that we occupy, as this is a virtual event with members joining us from all over the globe. Consider the land from which you originate and the land on which you are joining us today. I also would like to finish off by letting you know that this festival is being recorded and there will be some screenshots taken throughout the evening. So if you don't feel comfortable having your likeness captured for posterity, you're always welcome to keep your camera turned off. Now on to Jenna.
Thank you for that message, Ingara. Now, to kick off with our Cellphilm Festival, we will begin with a speech from this year's keynote speaker, Dr. Emma Hardin-Wolfson. Dr. Hardin-Wolfson is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Education, associate member of the Department of Equity, Ethics, and Policy at McGill University, and has been very active in promoting cell-filming with university students in Kazakhstan. She is president of the Canadian Society for the Study of Higher Education, a founding advisory board member of the World Access to Higher Education Network, and an associate editor of the Journal Studies in Higher Education. Now we are pleased to introduce Dr. Emma Hardin-Wolfson. On to you.
Thank you very much, everybody. You're going to see in a moment some slides that I want to share with you. And here they are. Okay, so because we've got this really cool theme for this year's Cellphilm Festival, I wanted to give my talk on the topic of imagining the future. So I'm going to invite you to come on a bit of a journey with me as we do that. Let me start by telling you a little bit about my... Why is that not moving? Uh, there we go. Oh, panic. My path to the futures, because in my academic work and my professional work, I've done quite a bit thinking about what the futures might be like. And I really appreciate the fact that this year's festival has futures in the plural, and that's how I refer to them as well. So my work is mainly in the field of higher education policy. And so just to share with you briefly some work that I've done, I've written a newspaper piece about how students want universities to change in the future. I have co-edited a journal in Spanish about the futures of higher education in Latin America and the Caribbean. I co-wrote a book chapter thinking about future skills in higher education. Earlier this year, I organized a workshop for graduate students at McGill University to help them think through their possible future pathways in education policy. And then most recently, just a few days ago, actually, I was in Kazakhstan in Central Asia speaking at a big conference on possible futures for internationalization of higher education in Central Asia. So a little bit of a snapshot to give you some ideas about the ways that I think about the futures, and particularly about the futures of education and higher education. Now, before I came to work at McGill University, I worked at UNESCO, and I joined at a time when UNESCO was doing a kind of once in a generational initiative, which was called the Futures of Education. And as you can see here, it was a global initiative to reimagine how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet. And over a period of maybe 2 to 3 years, they engaged about 1 million people all around the world and came up with this report at the end called Reimagining Our Futures Together. So I was asked in the job that I was doing at the time to lead some research to think about how could higher education contribute to this Futures of Education overall initiative. So if you look at the final report, you'll see some of my work and ideas that we gathered reflected in that. So I'm just one person, and of course I have some thoughts of my own, but here it was really important to work with lots of different kinds of people to help them and get and learn from them about what they're thinking about the futures of higher education. And we used a horizon of the year 2050. And you hold on to that year because I'm going to ask you to think about that year as well shortly. So that work culminated in 3 different sets of consultations and 3 reports. So we worked with higher education experts, so 25 people across 23 different countries. We did a massive public consultation. It was online. We worked with youth. We did in-person work with youth in Venezuela and China, and we also did some online work. So overall, across those 3 phases, we worked with 1,344 people across 112 countries. And one of the things that we asked all of them the same question, and I'm going to ask it to you tonight as well. So I'll come back to that a little bit later and tell you some more about that work. So now it's your turn. How do you see the futures? How are you thinking about it? So when we think about the futures, we're often thinking in a forward or, in that kind of direction. But actually one of the ways that can help us to do that, because sometimes thinking ahead to say 2050 might feel really unrealistic. It might feel really difficult to do. So one thing we can do is start by going back in time, because then we can understand where have we come from, where are we now, and where might we be going. So there's lots of different things that we could think about. I'm just going to pick a few very quick facts to tell you. So some of you were around in the world in 2000, and if you weren't, here is some new information for you. So at that time, we had a population of 6.1 billion, and about a third of those people, so 2.23 billion people, were living in extreme poverty, very not good, and around 400 million children were not able to go to school at that time. The year 2000, as well as marking a new century, was also the year that the Millennium Development Goals were established. There were 8 of them. What else can we think about? So that year, there were 401 natural disaster events recorded. There were 25 major armed conflicts in 23 locations. And then on technology, if you're as old as I am, you'll remember a time when we used to have to connect to the internet using phone lines. You might also remember this phone, this Nokia phone, which came out in the year 2000 and was super popular. I think even I had one. But at that time, only 6% of the world had access to the internet. And there were about 8 cell phone subscriptions per 100 people. Now, if you think about the work that you've all been doing with cell filming, that's a really important statistic. So that was then. And what about now? So what does the world look like if we look at 2025, last year, 2026? So first of all, you can see there are more babies. So our population has gone up by about 2 billion. And the good news is the number of people living in extreme poverty has dropped significantly by more than half. However, there are still 270 million children who are not in school. And that's a really stubborn figure that's, it's been a persistent issue that UNESCO and other organizations and national governments and other people, lots of other people are still working on. The Millennium Development Goals were replaced by 17 Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. That runs until 2030. So we've already got some information coming through about the extent to which we're meeting some of those goals. Natural disaster events, about the same number, so 358 were recorded. Unfortunately, the number of armed conflicts has increased. In fact, the 65 major armed conflicts across 35 locations makes that the highest number of armed conflicts since the end of the Second World War. So that's a very definite reverse trend. And technology has changed massively. So now, of course, this is not evenly spread, but about 3/4 of people in the world have access to the internet. And there are now 112, not 8, cell phone subscriptions per 100 people, which means if you averaged it out for every person, they have just over 1 cell phone subscription, because some people have more than 1 number or more than 1 phone, that kind of thing. So lots of big changes have happened just in that 25, 26-year period. So now that we've thought about what it was like before, what it's like today, let's think forward to 2050. So now I want you to imagine yourself in that future world. So I want you to think about how old you will be. So you can add 24 onto your current age. And then think about what might you be doing. And if you think you might not still be here in 2050, maybe think about what the generation after you might be doing. So you could imagine, what might your job be in that time? What kind of family situation do you think you might be in? What's your community looking like? What about your social life? What about the environment or the world around you, or something else? So you don't have to answer this question. It's for you to think about as we kind of think ourselves forward to this next horizon. Obviously, if anybody wants to share their answers in the chat, you're very welcome to do that. But then I want you to think about these two big questions as well. So when you think about 2050 and you imagine yourself in that 2050 world, what's your biggest hope? And what's your biggest concern? And the reason I'm asking you this is not just because I'm interested, which I am, but because we asked those exact same two questions to everybody we worked with in the UNESCO project that I told you about just a few minutes ago. So what I'm going to do now is tell you a little bit about what those people said to us in terms of hopes and concerns, but I'm just going to give you a few seconds to think before you see other people's answers. So, are you ready? Do you have shared visions? Do we have shared visions for 2050? What do you think? So what we did in terms of bringing together all the very many different responses that we had to those questions from our public consultation was try to organize them into four main areas. And what you're seeing on your screen now is the bottom of this beautiful tree that we designed. And the top part of the tree with all the branches and the leaves looks specifically about what higher education might be like in the year 2050. But in order to get to that vision, it's really important that we think about what are the roots, what are the foundations that set us up for those better futures. And we identified four. So one relates to quality of life, one to social change, one to care of the environment, and one to the development of technology. So what I'm just going to show you very quickly now is what the top 5 responses were for each of those 4 areas. So maybe when you've thought about what you're hopeful about or concerned about, it seems a little bit similar, or maybe it's different. I don't know. So people here were hopeful about human well-being. They were hopeful about peace, which seems very appropriate, since we've seen how many more conflicts there are now. People hope for a more empathetic society, for advances in healthcare, and for more value based on diversity. On the other hand, they were concerned about health, poor quality of life, individual and family concerns, corruption, intolerance, and greed. If we look at social change, people were hopeful about social justice. They were hopeful about research and innovation, about youth leadership, which is very cool because I can see we've got lots of young people on the call today. They were hopeful about the resolution of global challenges. They were hopeful about greater integrity. On the other hand, they were concerned about social inequalities, about economic and resource challenges, war and conflict, poverty, and diminished international relations. If we look at care of the environment, people were hopeful that we would be in a place with better sustainability, better relations with the planet, a better world, fairer global distribution of resources, and thinking about how technology might be used to improve the environment. But you can see almost everybody who responded had concerns around environmental issues. So this was a major challenge that people identified. They also talked about the lack of sustainable development, lack of access to resources, worse relations with the planet, and social inequalities. And then finally, when it comes to the development of technology, people were hopeful about advances in technology, about the use of technology in society and in education, advances in technology, research and innovation, and access to knowledge. And they were concerned about poor or unequal use of technology. So even though we saw before that like lots of people have access to the internet and phones now, it's still not evenly distributed between countries and within countries. People were concerned about artificial intelligence, and I wonder now whether that's something which is even more of a concern because we have other tools which are more widely used now. People were concerned about unequal access to technology, lack of access to information, and lack of control over advances in technology. So I wonder how much that resonates with what you're thinking. What are your hopes and concerns for 2050? So I want to finish by thinking about why we should think about the futures in the first place. I know you have with the Cellphilms, but let's think about this in a bigger picture as well. Because I think when we think about the futures, it can drive us towards visionary thinking about what might be possible and what might be desirable. And in that way, it can help us break negative patterns of the present or the past and plan for how to achieve our hopes and address our concerns. And I think it's important to remember here, we're not trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. That would pretty much be impossible. But it's about getting into that kind of mindset of visioning or envisioning for the longer term. So to finish, I'll say and remind you that the plural of futures is really important because there is no single path ahead. There are many ways for us to come together to create better futures for everybody. And I want to use the opportunity to congratulate everyone who's participated in this year's Cellphilm Festival and finish with an invitation to everybody to keep dreaming. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Thank you, Emma. That's beautiful. And we can get you off to your class in time. Thank you. Wow. You're so inspirational. Emma is my colleague in the Department of Integrated Studies and Education, and I'm thinking, oh, at the next department meeting, open us up to the futures in our meetings. It's lovely. Also, really, just to think through your comments today so align with where we started. I think with the theme for this year, and I would like to nod to one of our this year's judges, Sasha, who was an intern last year, and it was actually the interns who organized the festival last year who came up with this theme, and it very much echoed, I think, some very important pieces around the now of this, as well as as well as futures, and what we can be doing now in anticipation of the very themes and the very topics that you brought forward. And as you were talking about these themes, I'm thinking, I hope all of you, as we are watching the cell films today, think about where do they land in these thematics. I think you've started as on a participatory data analysis activity to actually work with this. So thank you very much, Emma, and we'll report back to you on the themes once the festival is completed, and we'll have all of that thematic piece.
Marvelous.
So,
all right, thank you very much,
thank
Claudia.
you.
Sorry, I'm just going to use just to say to everybody, thank you so much for listening. I'm sure I can get the reports and stuff shared over. You can have my slides, absolutely no problem at all. I'm so sorry, but I actually have to go because I have to teach, because that is another part of my job. So unfortunately, I have to log off the call, but I hope you all have a really fun evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And I'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. You may leave. Okay. We'll stay in touch. So thank you. And that just is such a lovely kickoff to this whole evening. My name is Claudia Mitchell. I can see that I know many of you on the screen tonight and many new people as well. This is the 14th McGill International Cell Film Festival iteration. That's very exciting. This theme on futures now, I think very much responds to what so many of us are talking about and thinking about and imagining. And I think the imagining idea is a very important part of what we're going to be hearing tonight. How do we think about futures and in relation to the now? What can you imagine? What is your message to future generations? These were the guiding questions that we put out to the world a few months ago to respond to. And that's what you're going to hear about tonight is how are people dreaming? How are people thinking? How are people hoping? What are people hoping for? We had a wonderful response of cell films from 15 countries, Canada, Nigeria, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Morocco, Tunisia, Bangladesh, Greece, Hungary, France, Malawi, India, Uganda, and Jordan. We had over 90 participants making cell films, and we had I would say probably another 50 or more people who participated in cell film workshops along the way. So we managed to organize some cell film workshops with our interns and with members of the PCL to actually teach people how they might make cell films and so on. So it's kind of like a broad community. And I already see tonight we have all these watch parties. I understand we've got to get into the groove for the watch parties for the World Cup, but we've got watch parties here tonight as well. For the participants, we had people as young as 4 who made a cell film, and we had people into 5 or 6 decades of age or more for making cell films. And these really respond to our categories. We have a children's category, a youth category, we have individual and group categories. And and I think it's a wonderful intergenerational vision that we're going to see tonight of how 4 to beyond are looking at futures and imagining futures. So just to say that as we go through the whole evening, you're going to be meeting some of the winners who are going to be here tonight. You're also going to meet our 3 amazing judges. Brett Party, who is a returnee judge for maybe 4 years or 5 years from the University of Fraser Valley. We have Candace Amarante, who is a writer, activist, podcast maker, I think, as well. She's like designing scripts and human rights work. And we have Sasha Utkina, who is one of the interns who was working on the Cellphilm Festival last year and who was one of the people who imagined this topic and who's come back this year as a judge, which is really, really exciting. And we're grateful to all of you for your contributions. And we're looking forward to hearing what our judges have to say and what their views are on this. And maybe just to say a little bit about the organization of the Cellphilm Festival in its 14th year. This is 14 years of McGill students organizing this. We've started with doctoral students in our early ones, and now the Cellphilm Festival is pretty much organized by our summer interns. This year you've met Ingara Maidu and Jenna McKenzie, but we have a whole host of people who are in the behind the scenes here as well. We also have Emmy Romero, who is a new doctoral student at McGill, who has been behind the scenes and in the front lines and organizing workshops as we go along. And I just want to say that there's a cast of thousands at the Participatory Cultures Lab tonight with me, keeping this running. And it's a really exciting moment. We've been waiting for this, all of the lead up in terms of the cell film workshops and getting the word out and conferring with the judges and then all of you here tonight. So thank you very much. And I think before I keep going on, I'll just say, welcome, let's get going. And I'm going to turn it back to Jenna. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for that helpful overview. Now, it's important to note that when we look at the future, while there's a lot of possibility for good, we cannot overlook the bad as well. Before we begin with the cell film screening, we have a quick content advisory. Some of the cell films that will be screened today touch on difficult and sensitive topics, including self-harm, suicide, discrimination, gender-based violence, colonialism, and inequality. These stories are powerful, and some may find them to be emotionally challenging. Please feel free to step away from the screen at any time if needed and take as much time as you need before returning. Over to you, Ngara.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay, so now let's get into our awards. Our first judge will be presenting our first category. Sasha Utkina will introduce the children's category. So Sasha is a recent graduate of McGill University, where she completed a Bachelor of Science in Political Science and International Development Studies. To learn more about our judges, just make sure to keep up with the chat. And I think that's all I have to say. Take it away, Sasha.
Thank you, Ngara, and good evening, everyone. It is a real pleasure to open the children's category, a set of cell films where children are not just telling stories, but reacting to the world they already see around them and the questions it raises for their future. Across the submissions, there were clear and very grounded themes of education and access to it, care for the environment and what happens when nature is imagined in the future, peace and friendship in everyday life, and the way technology shapes attention, play, and connection between people. What also stood out very clearly is how consistently the no-phase approach was used, with children finding inventive ways to communicate through masks, costumes, drawings, toys, and carefully constructed scenes that carry meaning without needing to show their faces. Taken together, cell films in this category feel like short but sharp observations of the world as children experience it, sometimes playful, sometimes more critical, but always direct in the way they ask what kind of world we're building today. So I'd like to announce our second honorable mention, Qu'est-ce que c'est ce monde by Marie Calderou, Léonica Belasi, Evie Shapiro, and Mia Rochon.
Arrête de lire, c'est le temps de dormir. Bonne nuit et faites beaux rêves.
Bonne nuit, maman, je t'aime.
Dans son rêve.
Ah, j'adore cette musique. Moi, j'adore ce monde. T'as raison, c'est que la parfaite. Tu danses avec vous? Ah ouais, comme tu fais. Oh, ce rêve était merveilleux. Je sais qu'il existe, il faut que je le retrouve. Ah, je suis encore en pyjama. Oh, j'allais oublier le plus important. C'est bon, j'y vais. Hey, vous voulez aller dehors? Qu'est-ce que c'est que ce monde?
Okay, that was a really great cell film. Well done. And next, our first honorable mention, l'album de vie En espoir pour les enfants confiés by Sofiane and Thiago, Alexis, Eric, and Emmanuel.
Tu pourrais dire sur l'album de vie?
Refaire mon album de vie avec Sophie, des soirées avec mon album de vie avec Sophie.
Alexis, qu'est-ce que tu as à dire?
J'aime bien, je veux avec Sophie mon album de vie.
Et toi, Thiago, qu'est-ce que tu as à dire sur l'album?
Faire le coloriage.
Ah. Et toi, Eric?
J'aime bien passer du temps avec Sophie en train de faire mon album de vie. J'aime bien faire de l'album de vie toute ma vie. On est où là? On était où là? On était où? Non, t'es toute
Alors, attends, je regarde.
On était où quand j'étais là?
On était sortis au parc.
Mais on dirait que je me suis perdue.
Bah, tu t'es pas perdu, j'étais avec toi.
T'es lui. On était tous les deux. J'ai un album de vie et je vais faire tout le temps ça. Je suis dans la feuille de mes parents et de mes frères et sœurs. Et quand j'avais commencé mon album de vie, mes parents ils étaient toujours ensemble. Et bientôt ou pas bientôt, ils vont se séparer. Et je garde espoir. Je vais coller mes deux parents dans mon album de vie pour toujours. Je garde espoir pour que mes parents ils se remettent ensemble. Comme ça, je colle mes deux parents dans mon album de vie. Je garde espoir de garder la photo classe chez mes parents et garder l'album de vie. Quand on aura fini cet album de vie, on pourra en refaire un autre. Fini l'album de vie, demain je recommence.
And finally, the winner of the children's category, La nature naturelle de 2026 by Constance Léane, Léonie Gillet, and Léa Fréchette.
gens du futur. Je suis actuellement en 2026 dans un endroit qui s'appelle la nature. Un endroit avec des choses végétales qui sont créées par la terre et qui ne sont pas passées par une usine pour être créées. Mais aujourd'hui, je vais laisser mes compères scientifiques vous expliquer ça dans notre épisode de la vie naturelle en 2026. Vous allez tout découvrir. Alors je reprends la relève. Je suis présentement sur ce qu'on appelait avant un arbre. Un arbre, ça fait partie de la grande famille qu'on appelle les vraies plantes. Les vraies plantes, ce sont tout ce qui a été créé par la nature et non en plastique. Je sais que vous devez sans doute connaître beaucoup de plantes en plastique, mais sachez que celle-ci est bien réelle. C'est avec le bois de cet arbre que nous fabriquions autrefois les maisons, les chaises et le papier. Je suis présentement devant ce qu'on appelait autrefois un buisson. Les buissons sont tout comme l'arbre que je vous ai présenté tout à l'heure, de la famille des vraies plantes. Celui-ci est dans la famille des conifères. Vous devez sans doute connaître les sapins artificiels que l'on met à Noël dans votre salon. Cependant, ceux-ci sont créés avec les biens de la nature. Car oui, les sapins étaient autrefois de vrais arbres. Alors, les buissons agissent tout comme les arbres. Ils agissent comme un filtre, c'est-à-dire qu'ils vont absorber le CO2 et faire ressortir l'oxygène pour que l'on sente tous. Alors, respirez ce bon air frais. Il n'est pas aromatisé au bonbon au melon d'eau ou sinon au guimauve. Vous voyez cet air qui n'est pas passé. On ne peut pas très bien le voir, mais il n'est pas passé par les usines. On l'a pas mis en capsule pour le dévisser. Et on prend une bonne gorgée. Et voici les fleurs. Les belles. Oh, je vous avais pas vu. Alors, notre premier épisode de la nature naturelle en 2026 est terminé. J'espère vous retrouver. Et rappelez-vous, je suis vraiment désolée pour vous si vous n'avez pas pu voir toutes ces choses époustouflantes et si votre nom est le nom d'un skin Fortnite ou d'un... Et non, Fortnite peut-être pour vous maintenant n'est pas un jeu vidéo, mais une guerre mondiale. Je vous souhaite plus tard dans le bus.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for announcing the awards, and congratulations to all the children that participated in making these lovely cell films. So now we'd like to open the floor for a few minutes to the brilliant creators behind these cell films. If you'd like to share a few words about your work, what inspired it, how it came together, or what message you hope to convey, you're welcome to do so. You can type your thoughts in the chat, or if you prefer to speak, just raise your hand and we'll give you the time. The floor is officially yours.
Hello?
You're free to speak.
Get started. No. What do you want to say? We're happy to win an award, and it was cool to participate to this project, and also we're happy to be here with all of you guys. And you go.
No, what? I didn't think we were gonna win this, so we were just doing this for fun, but we won. That's really special.
And also McGill is in English, and we made a cellphilm just in French, so that's actually also really cool.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I think we have more winners that are raising their hands, so the floor is yours.
Hi.
Bonjour, aujourd'hui on va vous... on a fait notre film parce qu'on trouvait qu'il y avait trop de gens qui restaient sur leur téléphone.
So what she just said there was that we made this cell-film because we thought that there were way too many people on electronic devices.
Donc, ce qu'on voulait dire dans notre film, c'est que les gens arrêtent d'être sur leur téléphone ou n'importe quoi d'autre d'écran électronique pour que on laisse place, par exemple, à ce qu'on reste dans la nature ou des choses comme ça.
So, she said, I don't know if you guys understood, so that she would like, well, we made a cell film to stop a lot people from always looking on their phones or tablets or whatever, and to like have more connection with nature.
Et donc, une de nos amies qui n'est pas là,
Non, elle est là.
ouais, elle est là, mais elle ne veut pas parler. Elle voulait dire qu'elle a adoré faire ce film. Elle trouvait ça très drôle et que et qu'elle pense que c'est un sujet très important et qu'il faut en parler.
So our friend that is right here right now, but that she doesn't really want to speak, says that she found this experience making the cell phone really fun and that she thinks this subject is really important to talk about.
Moi, je voulais juste te dire qu'on a eu pas mal de fun à faire ça. Surtout après les 56 prises qu'on a faites.
So what she just said was that she thought it was really fun to do this and that especially after, because it took us a really long time to make it. And
c'est un détail pas très important, mais notre amie qui est ici, elle fait pas partie de cette film, c'est juste que sinon elle allait être toute seule, donc on l'a invitée.
yeah, so what she just said here, that's not very important, is that our friend here, she's not actually in the cell phone. It's just that she came because we're her friends and she didn't want to be alone. And so what?
Est-ce que toi, tu veux dire quelque chose?
Je en français et en anglais?
En anglais, ok.
Okay, so what I want to say is I think just like all my friends here that it's a really good subject to talk about, and I think people should spend less time on their electronic devices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maintenant, c'est passé popcorn, non?
Okay, thank you so much to our winner and honorable mentions that shared a couple words from our children's category. If there are no other people that would like to share, we will move on to the next category.
I can share.
Mhm.
I am Nathalie Chapeau, and I'm a professor and a researcher in France. And I work with a social worker and foster children to make the Cellphilm. It's Sophie Hen. She is in line now with foster children. And it was Emmanuel, Thiago, Alexis, and Eric. They sleep now because in France it's very late. And we will show them the movie and the photography of the festival after tomorrow morning for them. The children decided to make a film with their caregiver about the importance of having a better world and a better support for their lives now, to have a better life in the child welfare system. And they create this Cellphilm to show for them the opportunity to have a better life, to know their history and to know their parents. And they want to find hope, to have hope for their future. Then that's why they decided to create this Cellphilm with their social workers. And I'm very happy to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Atali. Okay. I think now we will move on to our next category. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Candice Emirate, who will be introducing our next category, the youth category. Candice is an artist researcher focused on writing rights and holds a doctorate in political science from Columbia University. She writes stories and plays emphasizing children's rights and features children with chronic illnesses. To learn more about our judges, refer to the chat below. On to you, Dr. Candice Emirate.
Thank you very much, Jenna. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this category, the youth category. I just lost my, oh, here it is. Sorry, my speech. I would now like to introduce our youth category for the evening. Cellphilms in this category touched on important themes including environmental accountability, adolescent sexual and reproductive health, and the human and ecological cost of globalization. Some of the cellphilms demonstrated the creative tools young people are using to imagine and build change. Doodled animation, rewriting our relationship to the planet, embroidery stitching together a quiet but searing critique of an industry built on exploitation, while others, like the dialogue happening in a remote community in northern Nigeria, showed us young people themselves modeling the open communication and trust that future generations will need to thrive. Across the category, these filmmakers didn't simply name injustice. They offered us metaphors, images, and practical solutions for confronting it. A dry plant in need of watering, a pen in need of a hand willing to rewrite the story. Overall, the contributions evoked a range of emotions and insightful messages. It's my pleasure to announce the honorable mention number 2, Echo by Yu Yi Guo. Congratulations, Yun Ying. The honorable mention 2 is Let's Talk by Suryam Aliman, Khalid Abdulaziz, Mubarak Adamu, Nuru Abu Laziz.
Wannan ciyawa ce a bushe, wacce bata sami abin da take so ba, kamar ruwa ko bayi. domin ta rayu cikin aminci. Kamar waɗannan matasan a baya, suna da damuwan da suke so su faɗa a gida, amma ba su samu sukuni ba. Haka zalika waɗannan matasa idan ba su samu sukuni faɗan damuwarsu a gida ba, ka iya kasancewa tamkar da wannan busasshen ciyawa. Godiya ta tabbata ga Allah Ubangijin talikai. Ayyukan ƙungiyar tattaunawa na garin nan ta zamo tamkar bayi ne ga tsirrai. Kamar yadda kuka ga wannan tsirrai, haka rayuwar matasa ta koma a garin nan, domin sun samu damar tattaunawa da iyayensu. Suna rayuwa cikin farin ciki da annashuwa.
Congratulations, Suryam, Khalid, Mubarak, and Nuru. And the winner is The Cost Beneath the Price by Rachel Olian. Congratulations, Rachel.
Great work to everyone on these amazing cell films. Once again, the floor is now open for remarks from these creators on their cell films. You can raise your hand to speak, and we'd love to hear from you on what inspired your cell film, how it came all together, or what message you hope to convey to the audience. If you're more comfortable with putting a comment in the chat about your work, feel free to do so as well. Okay, we'll start with Sunny. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. My name is Sani Muhammad Abdullahi, and I work with Form 1CH in Nigeria. I facilitated the group of adolescents who created the cell-film Let's Talk, the Honorable Mention 1. The cell-film throws light on the importance of communication between adolescents and their parents. The young creators of this cell-film live in a rural community in northern Nigeria, which is a part of an intervention to improve sexual and reproductive health among adolescents. Communication between parents and children, though not always considered important, nonetheless plays an important role in promoting good sexual and reproductive health among adolescents. These boys publicly screened their cell-film to their community leaders, including the religious and traditional leaders, their parents, service providers, and other adolescents, which help change things in their community. This artistic work take a role subject to appreciation and praise from among their community leadership. They cannot be here today, but I would like to extend their gratitude to these organizers of this Cellphilm Festival for this outstanding, astonishing, and surprising recognition at a global stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
Okay, if not, we'll move on to our third category, the individual category. First of all, thank you, Candace, for the lovely speech, and thank you to the winner and the honorable mentions in the youth category. You guys all did amazing. So now we'll be moving on to the individual awards. Just a reminder, folks, some of the Cellphilms in this category involve themes of colonialism and displacement, so feel free to step out anytime and come back when needed. Now I would like to give a warm welcome to Dr. Brett Party, our third judge and one of our consecutive judges every year. Brett, or Dr. Party, teaches media and communication studies at the University of Fraser Valley, and you can find more info about him in our chat. On to you, Brett.
Hello. For this category, as we were selecting the winners in the category, we realized that a theme emerged in all three of these selections, which is a consideration of how kind of everyday, ordinary space, it can be a river, it can be a sidewalk, that around us, it's all located within histories that are often not hidden from us. And once we learn about them, it really recontextualizes how we experience the everyday. These films ask us to reflect on how human infrastructure, names, schedules alter our experience of place. And while they're united in theme, they're wonderfully varied in style. They used a variety of different approaches to Cellphilms, from a very energetic handheld on-the-go montage to a much slower, kind of peaceful collection of scenes, and then even to poetry and still images. I also really appreciate how the films in this category all emphasize movement across borders, how the insights of people from 3 different continents even strengthen and help Canada move forward by asking critical questions about why are things the way they are. That the creators of the Cellphilm winners in this category do an excellent job at bringing their curiosity and eye to make the ordinary extraordinary in our free films. So I will open with our honorable mention number 2, which is Notes from the Sidewalk by Tamia Nog.
I walk in rain, in snow, in sun, to buy bread, to think, to outrun the cluttered rooms inside my head. With birds or music, page or thread of thought unraveling as I go, my feet knows roads my mind doesn't know. I came from a continent folded tight where towns lean softly into sight. Then Quebec open, vast and wide, a beautiful, unattainable child. Here winter buries the sidewalks first, while roads are freed from their frozen curse. Bus schedules govern the shape of days, whole lives are planned around transfers, waits. The pavement tilts towards every car, pedestrians learn what they truly are. I glance over my shoulder, I measure the street, for a woman walks differently than most of the fleet. Keys in my pocket, phone close at hand, reading the city the way others read land. Then I am nowhere and everywhere too. Lost in a sentence, a birdsong, a view, a city reveals at the speed of 2 feet its hidden bakeries, murals, and heartbeat. By term's end, I've traveled 3,521 miles for school. A pilgrimage powered by deadlines and fuel of stubbornness, hope, and the things I pursued. Was it worth it? Some days I conclude. The answer lives not in the degree I will receive, but in every small journey I chose to believe. So I keep walking, a European heart in a country of space, learning that distance is part of the place, and that what makes Quebec breathtakingly grand is also what teaches me how to withstand.
Thank you for that excellent film. Our other honorable mention is Beneath the Surface of Sankofa Square by Salma Garabai.
تحت كل حجرة وظلت كل شجرة بشوف ذكريات ستي وجدي، فكل ما تسألوني انتي مين راح أحكي لكم عن قوتهم وكيف أحفادهم صامدين.
When I first came to Toronto, Dundas Square was my favorite. The lights, the crowds, the energy, it felt like the center of opportunity and ambition, a place where worlds were coming together. I didn't think about its history, I didn't think about its name. But now, what was once Dundas Square is Sankofa Square. What was once Dundas Station is TMU Station. And that changes how I look at things. Because names aren't just labels, they reflect who is remembered and who has been erased. So I look at things differently now. This is Indigenous land, but the space itself doesn't reflect that. It's been reorganized into a site of consumption, where land becomes something to move through, spend on, and profit from. And it's not just the square. The systems around it, universities, transit, public space, are all built on and sustained by this land. As a student, I move through these systems every day, I rely on them. But for a long time, I didn't think that included me. I identified as Jordanian, just here temporarily, coming for my education and then leaving. But that distance I had tried to create didn't really hold. I have citizenship here, I benefit from these institutions, and I'm building a life here. I'm making a connection to this land whether I meant to or not. So I'm not outside of these structures, I'm a part of them. And that changes how I understand my relationship to this land. Because being here isn't neutral. It means living within ongoing histories of displacement, even when they aren't visible, even when that's difficult to reconcile with. And if I understand myself as a guest here, that comes with responsibility, not just to acknowledge the land, but to think about how I live on it. And once you start paying attention to that, you begin to see how struggles over land, belonging, and rights aren't confined to one place. They echo across different spaces shaped by different histories, but connected through ongoing displacement, claims to land, and the question of who has the right to remain.
Thank you for that excellent film. I think it's interesting looking at the stores around Sankofa, just how globalized they are. You can see like Jollibee, and you can see it's just the idea that the space has been turned into consumption is just something that's very obvious from the stores that surround it. And so moving on to our official winner, is the film that we selected as the winner in this category is Leave the Canoes and Go Back by Adonai Karabo.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brett, for introducing this category. And congratulations to all of our winners and honorable mentions. Before we open the floor up to everybody, Jenna and I kind of wanted to take a moment to read two acceptance speeches, one by our category winner, Adonai Kirabo, as well as our honorable mention, Time Nagy, as they are unable to attend the festival tonight. So I will start with our acceptance speech by Adonai, who is the individual winner for Leave the Canoes and Go Back. When I began creating Leave the Canoes and Go Back, I was inspired by something many people pass without a second thought: a river. To most of us, a river is just part of the landscape, a scenic, unassuming sliver of water. But standing beside the Humber River in winter, watching its water continue to flow beneath the cold, heavy layers of ice, I saw something different. I saw persistence, I saw history, I saw a reminder that this land carries stories far older than any of us. The process was simple but deeply meaningful to me. I spent time observing the river, listening, filming, and reflecting on the name given to it by the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, Kabeshanong. Leave the canoes and go back. The more I sat with those words, the more they felt like a lesson in humility, a reminder that we are not owners of these places, but guests. If there's one thing I hope viewers take away from this Cellphilm, it is the importance of looking beneath the surface. Whether it is a river, a landscape, or a history we have inherited, there is always more flowing underneath than we first see. And perhaps caring for this land begins with recognizing that our presence here carries responsibilities, not just privileges. Thank you.
Thank you, Ngara. Now I'll be reading an acceptance speech from our second honorable mention, Tamaya Nagy, for her Cellphilm Notes from the Sidewalk. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this recognition. I'm truly honored and deeply touched that Notes from the Sidewalk was selected as an honorable mention number 2 in the individual category. The idea for this Cellphilm came to me during one of my walks home from class. As someone who has spent countless hours walking between places through different cities, seasons, and stages of life, I began to think about how much our lives unfold in commuting. The sidewalk became more than just a path from one destination to another. It became a space for reflection, observation, and quiet discovery. Notes from the Sidewalk is my attempt to capture some of these moments and to reflect on themes of movement, resilience, belonging, and the stories we carry with us along the way. It is a reminder that even the most ordinary journeys can shape who we are and how we understand the world around us. I'm incredibly grateful to the festival organizers for creating a space where these stories can be shared and celebrated, and I feel very fortunate to be part of this community of storytellers. Although I'm unable to join you this evening, I am thankful for the opportunity to share my work with you. I hope the film encourages viewers to pause for a moment, notice the beauty, meaning, and possibility that can be found in the paths that we travel every day. Thank you again for this honor, and I wish everyone a wonderful festival.
Thank you, Jenna. So now that I see Salma, the honorable mention one for Beneath the Surface of Sankofa Square, raise their hand. So Salma, the floor is all yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Salma. I'm a university student here in Ontario, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone at McGill University for this and for all the festival organizers. The films have been incredible. Creating this Cellphilm was really such a meaningful experience. It gave me a chance to pour my opinions and thoughts and concerns into creative expression. And at the beginning of the festival, you asked us how we imagine the future. And I think it's so easy with current world events and wars and injustices to feel very, very pessimistic and hopeless. And I think that can take you to two paths. Either you get stuck into this cycle of hopelessness and helplessness, or for me, this project was a way to pour those feelings into something constructive and something that would hopefully start a conversation. It helped me connect a lot more deeply with the issue of Indigenous struggle, which is something that is so deeply personal to me, but is also so universal because it speaks to so many people around the world. And I think it really fuels those same emotions in us. And it encouraged me to think about my own place in the system. There have been so many times where like a film that I really like or a piece of music have inspired me to learn more about something. And it's not even intentional, but like when you see something that moves you or that captivates you, you want to learn more about it and you want to know more about it. And that is absolutely what I would want anyone who watched the film today to take away, like this desire to know more and curiosity, because I know when you get bombarded with information, it seems like ignorance is bliss, but it's really, really not. I think knowledge is totally power. And even if it doesn't feel like that, it is. And it is the way we can drive change. And yeah, that's that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Satma. And thank you once again to the winner and honorable mentions in our individual category. I would now like to move on to our fourth and final category for the evening, our group category. Just a heads up, the last Cellphilm of this category involved themes of self-harm and suicide, so keep that in mind and please feel free to step away from the screen at any time if needed. Now on to the Cellphilms. Cellphilms in this group category touched on many important themes, including reproductive health education, respect, equality, justice, and the rise of individualism. What stood out was this common thread of the importance of support from family and community, especially in the age of technology. Some of the Cellphilms in this category highlighted the progress being made for long-term change going into the future, while others illustrated cautionary critiques of the present, reminding us what to keep in mind when imagining and creating change for the future ahead. Overall, the contributions in this category evoked a range of emotions and insightful messages, making it very difficult for judges to come to a final decision on the winner and honorable mentions for this category. But without further ado, we'll begin with the honorable mentions. Our second honorable mention for this group category is Change is Necessary by Umi Murtala, Asiya Iliyasu, Nafisa Muazu, Akira Dahiru, Aisha Mustafa, and Moria Ahmed.
Ni ɗaya daga cikin matasa ne masu aikin faɗakarwa. Kamar yadda muka ɗauki alƙawari da mu ci gaba da faɗakarwa 'yan uwanmu matasa. Alhamdulillah, aiki ya yi kyau, al'umma suna karɓar mu hannu biyu. A zahiri muna ganin canji a al'ummarmu. Iyaye sun rage yawan duka da zagin 'ya'yansu. Sannan mazajenmu ma ba a bar su a baya ba, suna ba wa iyalansu kulawa kamar yadda ya kamata. Marasa auren cikinmu idan muna zaune muna hira, muna ba wa junanmu shawara akan mu dinga tattaunawa tsakaninmu da iyayenmu, domin su ne jigonmu. Tabbas komin wuya komin zafi ba za mu bar wannan faɗakarwan ba. Da mu ci gaba da kutsawa lungu da saƙo domin sauran al'umma su samu roman daɗin zamantakewa a tsakanin kowane iyali.
Thank you and congratulations to everyone. A part of change is necessary. Now we are going to move on to our first honorable mention, and our first honorable mention of this group category is No Time for Silence by Jacob Daniel, Chikondi Jawabe, Brian Chidule, Desire Makumba, Stella Longo, Mervis Kadzua, Haxon Howard, and Zaithwa Chidule.
Guys, people are talking again about the rumors. Someone was beaten yesterday. They say he took someone's manhood. Like nobody saw it. Nobody proved it.
And that's why we are here. You know, when fear speaks first, the truth stays quiet. Yeah. So we cannot build a village based on whispers.
Yes. And my cousin, she had it on WhatsApp, then in the minibus. And by the time it reached the marketplace, it was already a fact. I had to call the clinic to verify. And they said that there are no such cases. Imagine.
See? And when you act before evidence, you break the law.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the police already arrested people for the mob justice. It doesn't bring you back the person you hate.
No.
It only brings you to court.
So I ask you now, what kind of a future are we building? A future where a Luma is a judge. A future where we sit believe, and ask, is it true? Who knows?
Imagine a Malawi where we use our phones to call the police, not to share panic, where we check before we share.
And this is how it starts. First, ask the source. Then the police. And lastly, the clinic.
Exactly.
Because our words carry so much weight. They can either kill or heal.
Yes. Report to the police. They'll investigate. That's the law's job, not ours. Protecting each other means protecting the process.
And my message to the children not yet born. We heard the noise, but we stayed quiet for the rumors. We chose the truth. We chose a dialogue over distraction. You know, futures now is not built on silence. Speak up for the truth, for life, for Malawi.
Thank you to everyone a part of No Time for Silence. That Cellphilm was really well done. Okay, and now moving on to the winner of this group category. The winner of the group category is A Future on Hold by Martina Silva, Antonio Soto, and Sebastian Troncoso.
We are living in times where individualism is highly valued, and there's no signs of it stopping soon. In these new eras, people tend to focus on their own ambitions and experiences, leaving less room for community and meaningful connections. Despite being more connected than ever thanks to the new technologies, loneliness and isolation seems to be the new norm. Is this the future we dream about? As individualism continues to grow, it is difficult to know where the future of our society is heading. Will the future generations continue this path? This is not the future I dream about. And looking ahead, it is difficult to know if there's a better future, or we are doomed to fail. After witnessing this transformation on our society, one big question remains. Is the future worth it? Do we really want to see it? Is there still time to do something?
Digamos no al comercio ilegal. Al comprar sus productos, las reglas estén manejados y fomentas a que ocupen y ensucien los espacios de todos.
Ya se tiró a alguien. Me va a arruinar todo el día.
Thank you to everyone, and congrats to everyone in this Cellphilm category. Before we open the floor up to other creators to speak, I wanted to take a minute to show the acceptance speech video by the members of the group category winner, Martina Silva, Antonio Soto, and Sebastian Troncoso, who were unable to attend the festival this evening.
Our inspiration comes from our daily life. The moment we heard about the theme, it came to us because it is something that is both present in our society and our personal life. So we wanted to share our thoughts about how everything is evolving.
Well, we reflected a lot doing this. When we were together planning the narrative, we realized how when we were children, the future seemed worthy, and now that we have grown up, we see all the terrible things that are happening. So that's why during the narration, there's phrases like, is this the future I dream of?
to try and prompt some reflection on the listener. In addition to this, while recording this video, we were able to enrich our creativity and reflective skills. We thought a lot about the environment that we wanted to create in order to convey our message. It was a really long process and challenging, of course, since we have never participated in a contest like this one, and because we recorded in public spaces, so we needed to be really careful to not invade someone's personal space, but overall it was a wonderful experience.
To see our video receive this recognition is incredibly rewarding, as it proves that the reflection we want to spark really resonate with the audience. We are immensely grateful to everyone who gave us this platform and this recognition. So thank you for listening to our voice, for validating a project that came straight from our daily lives and personal reflections.
Okay, so now again, the floor is open for creators to make remarks on their Cellphilms in this category. You can raise your hand to speak, and we'd love to hear from you on what inspired your Cellphilm, how it came together, or on what message you hoped to convey to the audience. If you're more comfortable with putting a comment in the chat about your work, feel free to do so.
Okay, I'm Asma Usani. I'm working with the Form 1 State, Bauchi State, Nigeria. I facilitated the session with the young girls to create their cell phones. In a small rural community in northern Nigeria, a group of young girls are playing a vital role in transforming their community through spreading awareness on sexual and reproductive health of adolescents. Faced with challenges such as poor parent-child communication, low health facility utilization, low contraceptive uptake, drug abuse, harmful sexual behaviors, physical and sexual violence, for transform their communities, they become the active members of the dialogue group. Through house-to-house sensitization and community awareness campaign, they educate families and encourage positive behavioral change. Their efforts are contributing to improve community communication between parents and adolescents and a better relationship between the married adolescents and their partners. To showcase their journey and impact, the girls produce a Cellphilm documenting their activities during dissemination. Their parents, husband, and community leaders commended their dedication and applaud the positive changes they brought to their community and neighboring communities. These brave young girls are valuable, unavailable to join us here this evening. I was with them when they created their Cellphilm, and I'm grateful to speak on their behalf. Today, they wish to thank the Cellphilm Festival for encouraging their journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on their Cellphilm, what inspired it, how it came together, or what message that you hope to convey related to the theme?
Okay, so if no other creators would like to speak before we close up the festival, I kind of just wanted to open up the floor to everybody that watched and is here tonight. If they had any comments about a specific cell film, general themes and commonalities, anything that they learned, anything that was different from last year's festival, the floor is all yours.
You can quickly make a cell film and send it to us, is a response. Okay. Marie, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really resonated with, I think it was Salma's cell film, the one about the side, or no, not, was it the sidebar?
Sankofa.
Yeah, one was describing how she felt being, you know, in between places, reconciling her understanding of place and who she was. And I felt that really resonated with me as somebody who's also an immigrant, who also came as a student, who was trying to find myself in the middle of two places, being torn, but also trying to find a sense of self, but also being on Indigenous land. And I found that really resonated, and I really, really enjoyed her cell film because it just made me reflect and think of myself as well and how I position myself in the world. So I found that really valuable.
Thank you so much, Marie. Yeah, that was kind of the discussion before the festival. We realized when we were especially looking at that individual category, how so many of them kind of had to do with themes of like displacement and like adjudicating that idea of like being on stolen land and how to move through the world, which we really enjoyed. Are there any final comments before we start getting into the closing of the festival?
I was just gonna make a comment about like what went through my head when making the film. The thing what I found interesting was like I said, because I grew up in a region of the world plagued by like colonial by wars on land and that kind of stuff. I've always thought about colonialism. It's always been something that I've thought about, but it was interesting to kind of take myself out of that and understand that even if I'm like a victim or like of colonial things in another part of the world, I'm still part of the same issue here, and I still have responsibility with that same issue here in a different way. So it follows you around everywhere you go.
Thank you so much, Salma. Okay, so I think we're going to start moving into the closing. Well, this wraps up the 14th International Cellphilm Festival, but before we head out, I would like to express some thanks and some gratitude. So firstly, I would like to thank everybody that made this possible. I would like to thank our PCL team for all the behind the scenes tech support, and they're like kind of all over the room right now. So thank you, Emmy, for writing the chat content, email monitoring, and screen sharing. Thank you, Leanne, for email monitoring, as well as making sure we don't miss out on any important information. Gabriella, thank you for translating the chat content and chat monitoring and sending in all the descriptions of the cell phones. I know that was a lot. Valentina, thank you for admitting people. Thank you, Mo, Twisha, Tatiana, Samuel, for all the behind scenes technical support and supporting us through this whole process. To our judges, Candice, Sasha, and Brett, thank you so much for your great work and for taking the time to carefully watch and comment and reflect on every single cell film. Although she's not here right now, we'd also like to thank Dr. Emma Hardin-Wolfson for her lovely keynote speech, and it was a great way to like ask questions and introduce us to the festival this year. I would also like to thank my lovely co-host and co-intern Jenna for all the hours spent organizing the festival and tweaking the script until like the last minute. And of course, thank you, Dr. Claudia Mitchell, for all the years you put into the Participatory Cultures Lab, and this festival wouldn't have been possible without you. And I'll pass it on to Jenna.
Thank you, Ngara, and also a big thank you to you for hosting this event and for your many hours dedicated to organizing the agenda and working on all the technical components for this event as well. We would also like to give a big thank you to everyone who participated in our 14th McGill International Cellphilm Festival this evening, whether you created an amazing cellphilm yourself, helped spread the word about our festival to others, or supported us by attending our online festival this evening. Our International Cellphilm Festival would not have been made possible without all of your interest, contributions, and support. If you would be interested in checking out some of the winning cellphilms from this year's festival, our keynote speaker's speech, or the general recording of the festival, we encourage you to go to the festival section of our website, internationalcellphilmfestival.com, for more information about cellphilming and to keep up to date with cellphilming and other related events at the Participatory Cultures Lab. We also encourage you to follow us on Instagram at Participatory Cultures Lab, all lowercase. Now over to Claudia for a couple last words.
Thank you so much. Oh, Jenna and Ngara, you were fabulous. I think we'll stand out, shoot up all those hearts, everybody. There's wonderful. You did a great job, and you from the get-go, you've been on this, and of course, your job is not over yet. We still have a report to come. And for those of you who visit the International Cellphilm Festival website, you can not only see some of the films and learn more about how to make a cellphilm. If there are any people who are working in groups and communities or teachers out there, there are all sorts of lesson plans and ideas for how to make a cellphilm. But we will put a report up at the very end, which does kind of like a little analysis of some of the films and just as a way to kind of bring the whole piece together. So that will be one last piece that will come up. And we hope that everybody will enjoy following this and following us into the 15th McGill International Cellphilm Festival. If you have ideas about what themes we should be doing or thinking about, we'll certainly give Jenna and Ngara first go at themes based on our great success of Sasha's ideas for this. And I really invite you to do that, Jenna and Ngara. And really, everyone, thank you so much. I know this is like a cast of thousands. And it really is. We've had all of the daycare workers and teachers and parents and university instructors who pass on the messages about this as well, or our folks from the CEGEPs and so on. So it's kind of a community out there of who wants to make a cellphilm, hang on to it. I know it's also a very interesting time around where we place social media and where we place the uses of cell phones and other media forms. And it's really exciting to think about the creative and poetic and change aspects of media. And I think that's one of the things that this Cellphilm Festival really helps us look at. So I think this brings us to an end. Thank you to all of the folks at the watch parties. You continue with the FIFA watch parties and make a cellphilm. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. All the people in different times can go to bed. All the other people can wake up.